In today's Leeds news, rumour mill territory with Retegui and Ketelaere linked. Leeds United accounts released. Leeds out of summer tour. And John Kevin Augustin saga continues. Morning, folks. Jer here. Tuesday, the 11th of April. Hope you've all had a reasonably good weekend outside of the Leeds result. Some weird news to get into today with Leeds, so we'll crack on and we'll start with this. And we'll start off on rumor mill territory. Leeds rumored to be interested, along with other clubs, in Argentine-born striker Mateo Retegui. Retegui is now an Italian international that's been called up by Roberto Mancini as Italian in his family. The Boca Juniors player who's currently at loan at Tigre has had a really good time there. He's got 7 goals in 10 games for them, and he is looking at his next move. AC Milan, Inter Milan, Eintracht Frankfurt, and Leeds are all said to be interested in the player. According to Fabrizio Romano, the player has made it clear that his next move will be a move to Europe. The player wants his next move to be Europe. There you go. Italy is his preferred destination, however, because of obviously there's Italian connections there as well. So it would depend on money and lead status in the Premier League, as long with everything else. So after a bad result, our status in the Premier League always looks a little bit less likely, but we'll have to see what happens there. Getting to the main bulk of today, there's 2 pretty big stories, and we'll start off with this. We'll go through it, and we'll start off with Leeds accounts have been released, and the top line of this is Leeds have announced an operating loss of 36.7 million for the year to date of June 2022. Leeds could pay an additional 45 million this year based on bonuses and future installments should they stay in the Premier League. Leeds have recorded a record turnover for the year. Last summer, 189 million, despite high income losses that totaled 151 million. The settlement of John Kevin Augustin has been added into that as well, of an additional 15 million pounds. Matchday revenue was up. It rose from 2 million to 24 million. That was due to the COVID restrictions being released and them allowed to get some matchday revenue back in. There's been 13 million pounds spent on wages and 3.5 million paid out to Marcelo Bielsa after his sacking by Leeds. Football finance expert Kieran Maguire has been talking about it, and basically what he has said is Leeds are in a solid economic position and should have plenty of saleable leverage and inventories should they need them. He also added that there's nothing to worry about in terms of Leeds' finances around financial fair play either. Angus Kinnear's been talking a lot about it as well. And just to give you a top line on this, Kinnear basically says that Leeds are in a strong enough position should relegation happen. He also described the finances at Leeds as being prudent and said that Leeds have enough quality youth players in depth should they get relegated, and we'll be able to lean on those players if needed. So it's a positive position. We're not in the Everton bracket. We're not worried about points deductions or anything else like that. We know Leeds have got a relatively small wage budget, comparative to other teams. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Some other news that came out: Leeds have been removed from summer tour in the US, the Summer Series Premier League games, which will take place in July. Leeds have now been removed from it. They're one of 6 Premier League teams that were over there, and basically it was being used as an opportunity to extend the fan bases in the US. That's a huge potential market for Leeds and for other Premier League clubs. But unfortunately, due to Leeds' league position, Leeds have now been removed from that and replaced with Fulham. Fulham, who are owned by Jacksonville Jaguar owner Tony Khan, still has a US interest. They're based in the US. So that's where that comes from. And not a good day for Leeds at all. Pretty much the space of 2 days, Leeds have been removed from a tour, got battered by Palace at home, and had a John Kevin Augustin fine put on top of them as well. So not a great day. Before we get to the JKA stuff, let's just talk about Charles de Ketelaere. And I'm just going to say this massive pinch of salt. This comes from Team Talk, who are capable of getting things quite wrong and have got things pretty big things wrong this season already. But according to Team Talk, Leeds are looking at revisiting the Charles de Ketelaere transfer. Leeds were involved in a to and fro transfer with AC Milan to get the player. He ultimately decided to sign for AC instead. AC paid 29 million pounds for the player last summer. 21-year-old, however, has failed to score in 33 games across all competitions. I think it's total to like 1,200 minutes since his last goal. There is a lot of talent in the Ketelaere. He has struggled to settle in Italy and in Milan specifically, and Leeds have kept an eye on him. Again, I think we say the same thing. It's a potential player there, not a current player, and Leeds are desperately needed players that can come in next season that can actually play in the Premier League next season, should Leeds still be there. And that's still a big if right now. And then moving on finally to the biggest story of the weekend. And David Ornstein broke the news that FIFA have ordered Leeds to pay John Kevin Augustin £24.5 million for breach of contract. JKA currently, who's at Bal and has scored a couple of goals since going there and is refining his career and restarting his career. The fine represents the full player's salary over the 5-year contract that he would have signed that Leeds had the deal gone through. The fact that the Court of Arbitration for Sport found in favour of Red Bull and giving them the fee earlier on, which was 15 million, basically means that there's an agreement that Leeds did breach the contract that was in place. Therefore, John Kevin Augustin has gone after loss of earnings himself. And it's totaling, as I said, 24.5 million, which works out at 90,000 euro a week was the deal that was put in place for him. Augustin played 3 games for Leeds and will probably go down in history now as the most expensive player Leeds have ever bought, if you put it in terms of games played. Leeds had an agreement with Leipzig for 15 million for the fee, but now there's an additional 24.5 million pounds being ordered by FIFA for Leeds to pay for breach of contract. Leeds are appealing the decision, which they did with the original one and lost twice on both appeals. It's one that Leeds have basically walked themselves into. Leeds tried to renege on a deal that they had with Leipzig when they brought the player in. Smart move by Leeds would have been keep Augustin, get him fit and sell him when they actually could sell him and get some of the money back. Instead, they have a player that they have no resale value in, who's moved on to 2 clubs since Leipzig, and has cost Leeds in and around now £30 million without really having any kind of length of time at Leeds. So it's a big mistake. It's a big blotch on Victor Orta's transfers. Just assuming Victor Orta made the decision to try and get out of the deal. There was, as I said, I didn't like what Leeds were trying to do at the time. There's rumours of Leeds trying to do the same thing to the McKennie deal as well at the moment. And just, signing contracts and making deals, you should honour your deals. And Leeds don't seem to want to do that. So that's going to be pretty much it for today, folks. Short and sweet, even though we got some big stories on the back of what's been a pretty poor weekend. But we'll be back tomorrow morning with more news. If you like the channel, you can like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. And I'll see you tomorrow morning for more Leeds news. See ya.